That's what it's okay. Alright, welcome back to Comic Book History, episode 93. So, what am I going to discuss this episode? Well, X-Men from the Ashes 1 year later. I did the same thing when Kokoro happened. Now, I have not necessarily reviewed everything that's come out so far for Rise from the Ashes. The only thing I have reviewed so far had just been the first trades for X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Wolverine, Storm, and Psylocke. And also, just today, I reviewed the first crossover, Raid and Graymilkin. So, there is some good and there is some bad related from the Ashes. And also, some of the books have been canceled due to low sales. Some have been successful, some has not been. So, when this initiative started, last year, they launched a bit too many titles. Okay, so, the initiative started back in July of last year. So, these are the titles that started with basically with the first couple months, these were the titles. You had X-Men by Jed MacKay, Phoenix by Stan Phillips, NYX, I will get to that, don't worry, by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lazing, X-Force by Jeffrey Thorne. In August, we had just 2 titles released that became X-Men and X-Force. In September of last year, we had just 2 more titles, Wolverine Exceptional X-Men. In October, we just had Storm. November, Psylocke. And then December, we had Laura McKinley and Helverine. And this year, we had a launch of 2 more ongoing series, that being Magic and Deadpool Wolverine. So, oh yeah, and prior to this, we did have a launch of Free Comic Book Day, obviously, and the X-Men Era of Apocalypse miniseries, which the purpose of this thing was to bring an heir to Apocalypse because something Steve Fox wanted to do. I did like some of the stuff the guy wrote, but not necessarily. I thought this was one of the more weaker titles he put out. And it's not terrible, it's just that, well, the overall problem is, by the time you finish reading it, it takes a year for follow-up. Yeah, it has up for a major storyline that's happening later this year, which I'll get to that. So, in the case of the titles, X-Men, I have been really enjoying this title. I've never thought any issue was bad. Phoenix, really good. X-Force, this is okay, not terrible. I do enjoy Uncanny X-Men, though I think it's not exactly as strong as X-Men. Nothing against Gail Simone, just not as strong as the other one. X-Factor had a very weak and weird start for this title. Exceptional X-Men, I don't know exactly what the purpose of launching this title was. Like, some of his other titles, I get the reason why. X-Men and Kenny X-Men, X-Factor, X-Force, fine. Long-standing legacy titles that's been around for a long time. Uncanny X-Men publishing since the 60s. X-Men, this is of course the course follows the legacy numbering that started back in the 90s. X-Factor started in the 80s. X-Force started back in the 90s. So, no problem with these titles being published. Though, of the initial titles, oh yeah, NYX was 2000s. So, I would say the strongest title so far, you have X-Men, Phoenix, NYX, Wolverine, Storm, Psylocke, Laura McKinley Wolverine, I think is a really interesting title. Definitely. It's not as strong as the Tom Taylor title that was published for Laura, but it's still pretty good. Helverine is interesting, given the fact it's Daken as Helverine. I love Deadpool Wolverine. The only reason this title was launched was because of the movie. And it was the Magic title, which, as far as I can tell, is the most recent ongoing they have released. There's also a limited series. First was Dazzler. There's also Sentinels, Mystique, this was second volume for the book, Cable and Chrome, Weapon X, which was initially launched as an ongoing. Then, for some weird reason, they made it a limited series. I do not know the reason for this. And Giant Size X-Men. Yes, seriously. I'm like, what is the purpose of this? Like, the title was really good. Yeah, of the limited series that I've read so far, Cable and Chrome was really good. Weapon X is really good. Mystique was interesting. I think it's a pretty good title, not terrible. Sentinels was really cool. I like the concept of that. I would say the limited series has been out so far. The worst has got to be Dazzler. No getting around, it's Dazzler. So what is the worst ongoing? That's easy, NYX. The book is not that good. It's like, oh, we have to basically make this LGB title and the giant size anniversary books, just a continuation of this nonsense. Now, nothing against the writers. I've met Jackson Lasing at a Comic-Con. He's actually who I got to talk to. But what was the purpose of this title? Aside from the fact we had to give a series for Kamala Khan, and it was one of two titles featuring Laura McKinley as Wolverine. This title had no reason to exist at all. They brought back a title that nobody was asking for. Nobody. Because the original volume is not well remembered from people. They think the title was really bad. One of the reasons why people don't like the title is because of the introduction to Laura McKinley to the 616 universe, this miniseries. Because the writer of the book decided to make her into a prostitute. But lucky enough, basically, a more proper introduction to the character was in Connection 450 by Chris Claremont. He did a much better introduction to the character. I would, if I would pick which one of the two would be a better first appearance, I think the Kenny X title was better debut than NYX. X-Force is an interesting title. I did hear something interesting when this book ended, that Jeffrey Thorne, this caught him completely off guard. The fact that this book was ending after 10 issues. Oh yeah, this was completely out of the blue for him. He had no idea. The only problem with Jeffrey Thorne is, and probably the reason the book didn't sell too well, is because there are people who probably still like Jeffrey Thorne, purely because of what happened with Green Lantern. Yeah, people probably blame the failure of that previous volume for Green Lantern on him, given the fact that he decided to do all this other stuff. Yeah, it was basically like, Ford's interesting, except that the lineup for this book was interesting. So, for X-Force, it was Forge, Sage, Surge. You're thinking, Surge? Who's this? Oh, the character from New Mutants. For some reason, they put their in title. Tank, who is actually Colossus. Yep, they put him in the title for some reason. The Betsy Braddock Captain Britain, and Rachel Gray. You're like, that is a weird lineup. Because it is. It is so bizarre. It is just... I'm kind of like, what was the purpose of adding these characters to... Now, Forge was part of the Cable X-Force book, and Sage was part of the previous volume. She's probably like the only character who was a holdover from that book. But then they added Rachel Gray and Surge, which was an interesting idea. But it just seemed like a very strange lineup. X-Men's got a great lineup. I love the X-Men lineup. It's basically Beast, though it's a Kokoro duplicate. Cyclops, Juggernaut, Omega, Magic, Magneto, Psylocke, Temper, who is the Onya, who is Matt Fraction. I think, yeah, she's Matt Fraction character. Zorn, Battle of the Blood. She's a Hickman character. Cypher and Warlock. I mean, this book has got a great lineup. Oh my gosh, it's so good. That's one reason I love this title. Phoenix's lineup is interesting. It has Jean Grey, obviously. Perkus. basically her father-in-law, Cornstar, frickin' Thanos, the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel, Richard Raider Nova, Rocket Raccoon, and Lady Sif. NYX was mostly put a lot of newer characters who basically debuted in the last 20 years. And one of the characters is this is the line that they had for NYX Volume 2. Annual, Prodigy, Stepford Cuckoo, Kamala Khan, Helion, Snitch, and Local. Snitch was a character who was actually Laura's current boyfriend. You might be thinking, who the heck is Kidion Nixon? A character who debuted in the first volume for NYX, which they probably threw in because she was in the first volume. One of the Stepford Cuckoos, which was okay. Uncanny X-Men. It's like this is more of the it's like if you look at, let's say, X-Men Volume 7, it's like the everybody popular lineup. For Uncanny X, it's more feels like something that combination would feel like the lineup being similar to that of Chris Claremont and maybe Scott Lobdell. You have Gambit, Nightcrawler, Rogue, Wolverine, and Jumbo Lee. And you gotta admit, that's actually not a bad lineup. For X Factor, this is weird because first, this is so weird. Like they had Angel be initial leader, and then he just disappears after the first issue. We don't see him again until the last issue of the book for no reason. Actually, Havoc originally, then it was Angel for some weird reason. You also have Feral, Fire Fist, Silly Reyes, Frenzy, Pyro, and Forget Me Not. Feral was she's an old Rob Liefeld character, and I think that they actually killed her off in the first issue. I think it was I think it was Frenzy. I think it was. Yes, they had this new character appear in the book, who actually previously dated the character. You're like, what? Yeah, it was one of the newer characters he had in the book. And of course, for some reason, Mark Russell threw in Forget Me Not. Not sure why. Except this basically was Chicago X-Men, which it felt like you read this title like they had the second cross and this side wasn't even part of it. For no reason. And here's the lineup. Kitty Pryde, Emma Frost, and Iceman. Plus new characters. Like, that's it? Yeah, that's it. Wolverine, you just have Wolverine himself, Nightcrawler, Vertigo, Constrictor, Cyber, Lady Deathstroke, and Romulus. Yep, they brought back Romulus. Psylocke, which I actually like this title. It's a shame the book isn't canceled at 10 issues. It just, Psylocke and John Greycrow. Laura, it has her own book. Wolverine has got Death, Wolverine, and Magic. Magic's got her own book with Mirage, who's actually a Moonstar. Dazzler's lineup was interesting. It is Dazzler, Domino, Multiman, Shark Girl, Strong Guy, Wind Dancer, and Lana Chaney. Mystique, this is your lineup for Mystique. Mystique, Destiny, Nick Fury, and Maria Hill. Both senior and junior both in this book, yes. Cable has got his own book, obviously. And Weapon X is Cable, Chamber, Deadpool, Thunderbird, Wolverine, and Deadpool. Yeah, and so far you've had technically 2 major crossovers. You're like, just 2? Well, we have one coming up right now. We have the regular one, which I discussed already. And then you have X-Manhunt. You're like, that's interesting. Yes, because it is. Yeah. Only this one involved almost every single title except for Psylocke and Magic, and yeah. That title I'll discuss basically when I get on the trade feedback for that one. So, there have been other titles. Of course, we have the Avengers, obviously. They're kind of forming an alliance. Nick Jemike writing both this book and X-Men. Of course, you're also writing Moon Knight. He's writing Moon Knight since like 2020. Yeah, he's been there for a long time. Miss Magic just started, and get this, her first trade pack is not even out yet. You're like, what? Yeah. I checked. It's not even out yet. But, so, good titles. Let's end it off here. I've been talking now for about 15 minutes. So, good titles. X-Men. Phoenix. Wolverine. Storm. Psylocke. Laura McKinley Wolverine. Hellverine. Dip Wolverine. Magic. Storm. Pretty much a lot of these titles are really good. I would say all but Kenny X-Men I think is below those titles. It's not terrible, but it's not good. The other titles, except for X-Men, I'm like, what's the purpose of this title? It's like people forget the fact the book exists. But what is the worst title of all the ongoing series? It's NYX. I would say just behind it is maybe X Factor. Purely because of the fact the book doesn't go much anywhere at all. Yeah. You know one thing the trades did not collect, and this would have been really interesting if they did collect it. There's these one-shots that basically collect the Infinity Comics. Yeah, and there's been one-shots basically reprinting the digital first stuff. Oh yeah, there is. You're like, really? Yeah, really. And they released a lot of these one-shots so far, but I mean, the story's been Eversong, What Charles Did, Don't Sound Like Sonnet, Someone's Son in Dreams, Pugman, Agent of Thanks, Bachman. That's all the From the Ashes ones. They have reprinted these ones in one-shots. Like, there's Xavier's Secret, which came out like in January. There is Death and Demons. Kurt McKay wrote the Hellfire Vigil, which... Yeah, this is basically a lot of was like only Psylocke won this particular party, and Cyclops was having a temper tantrum with this book. Yes, but one criticism I have for the trade so far, they do not collect the Infinity one-shots for From the Ashes. Not sure why. I would say that everything here so far has been really good. Collecting wise so far, just I hope From the Ashes gets collected and trade paperback. Let's hope so. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up is the Shy Hero Stats Princesses. Okay, thanks for you. Bye.